Hello everybody on YouTube. Today I thought I'd take out another moment to repair another broadcast video deck. This is a Betacam SP Uvw-1400. It's the actual playback recorder, and this is used in broadcast in most of the television stations through the 90s, pretty much through the late 80s through the 90s up until current. Really, still a lot of people still using these. Well, most people that have Betacam SP video decks like this, you'll see a lot of these on eBay, and most of them don't work. And that's the funny part about it. People have these Betacam SPs and they sell them for a lot of money on eBay when they're working, but when they don't work, they put them up for virtually nothing. I picked up this Betacam SP broadcast deck on eBay for $10 because it doesn't work. The person who sold this had it up there. Nobody was buying it because it wasn't repaired. It just doesn't work. Well, today I'm going to show you how you repair a Betacam SP video deck and how you can actually profit from buying broadcast video decks and repairing them yourself and actually reselling them to people who might need them. So let's take a close-up look at this deck, and I'll show you some of the fundamental things of how you actually repair this deck. Okay, let's take out the actual loading carriage on this first. The first thing you got to do is get all the covers off. You got to get the front panel off, because the issue with this machine, sometimes it's in many different locations, so you got to be able to get to everything pretty easy. So let me actually take the carriage out first, and you can actually do this by removing these two top screws first. Alright, as you see, I'm taking out the actual loading carriage plate. This keeps the loading carriage actually straight and keeps it pressed down into the carriage so it doesn't move, so the tape can load properly. See this little plate? You got two screws on the end of it. You take that off. Now, the loading carriage is right here. You'll see there's a little plug to the right. All you do is unplug that, just like that. Take the plug out and the wire in your hand like that, and you lift the carriage straight out, just like that. So let's get a close-up of this whole thing so you can get an idea of what's going on. Okay, as you can see, there's the loading carriage that I just took out. Most of the time, if you flip this over on its end like this, okay, most of the time, the carriage is in the lock position, down where the machine wouldn't load the tape, and when you load a tape into this carriage, it pushes it all the way down. Well, a lot of times people can't get the tape out of the carriage because it's stuck in position. You have a little wheel on here that you have to turn once you get the tape out to get the carriage back up into the actual loading position. See how I'm turning it, and it's going all the way up to the loading position. That's after you take the tape completely out of the carriage. You got to turn this wheel and you got to reset the carriage. That's if the carriage isn't damaged. Okay? Once you do that, make sure you actually reset the carriage first. Then, as you can see, here's the inside of the machine. Alright, very simple. No big deal. Alright, just like Betamax and all the other loading machines, it's a very simple machine. You will notice it's got two individual play and fast forward motors. This is your rewind, this is your play and fast forward. But these are actually separate motors that actually do this, and they slide on a rail. And you're probably wondering what this rail is for. Okay, the rail is for different tape sizes. You could put a small tape in here, and these two will come together, so you can actually play a small Betacam SP tape. You put a large shell Betacam SP tape in here, these two will come all the way out, so it'll accommodate a large shell Betacam SP tape. This deck plays back both small and large shell Betacam SP tapes. And as you notice, it's got a loading ring, just like Betamax and various other video decks. It actually takes the tape and it actually loads it around the drum. Okay, and this is your drum here. Alright, Betacam SP is a very high quality broadcast tape. It is analog, but it does have great quality to it. And it's about 800 lines of recording quality. It's a really good deck. Alright, then you got your audio. Audio control head is here. Your audio erase head is here. And you got various things. You got your sensors, and another sensor is here. This is very, very simple mechanism. Alright? Alright. Now we're going to talk about the biggest problem with why these machines fail when you load them. It's all got to do with these loading motors right here. You have to remove the motors and take out these screws and remove the motors completely out, because these shafts get all gooed up and sticky, and when you load a tape, it doesn't want to complete its transition, so the tape will load. So the carriage will actually lock it in place, and it actually gets stuck. And then you'll get what's called an error code on the front of the machine. You get a lot of error codes. That's one of the most common error codes. But the problem with that is you have to actually remove these mechanisms. These all come out, and you got to grease these rods that the actual motor slides on. This grease gets very, very hard. You have to re-grease the motor slide. So you got to actually unscrew everything. The motors come right out. The motors are connected by these little, they're like little ribbons on the bottom. I'll show you that in a minute when I flip the machine over. But these motors come out real easy, and you need to take everything apart. You got to have a service manual to do this. It's very simple. So you can re-grease everything. See these gears on this little motor? A lot of times the grease on this stuff is really hard. Everything's got to be taken out, re-greased and replaced, and put back in and realigned for the actual motion, for forward in and forward out for the different tape shell formats. This is a big issue right here. If you know how to do this and you got a schematic, you need to service this mechanism right here. Take it apart, re-grease it, put it all back together, realign it with the gears, and it should be very smooth transaction going in and out when you load a tape. That is your number one error code problem on these UVW machines. Number one problem. Well, anyways, I'm going to just show you how to do that. Basically, you just take everything apart and you just re-grease it, put it all back in, and no big deal. I want to move on to some other things now, but this is quite complicated, so get yourself a service manual and learn how to do it. Then you're going to want to look over here and make sure your Capistan motor, you can turn this by hand, make sure that is clean. Alright? Make sure the video head drum is clean. Lower and upper. Alright? Make sure all the pins are clean. Then you're going to want to replace what's called the Capistan roller, which is right here. These are always cracked, sticky, and very slick, and they don't make proper contact with the videotape, and this machine starts eating tapes. It's usually because of the actual roller, which is right here, or it's because of the actual loading mechanism that's failing because everything is stuck and it's not loading properly. So this has to be addressed first. Get everything re-lubed and greased and take apart. Make sure everything is free moving and nothing's sticking. Major problem right here. Replace the Capistan roller. Okay, check everything, make sure everything's clean, make sure your erase heads are clean, make sure everything is really clean, including these pins back here. See these pins where the tape actually touches these pins? Make sure all that is absolutely clean. Alright? And as far as the upper part, once you do this, pretty much the loading system will be perfectly in order. You shouldn't have any sticking or loading issues, and you should have no errors because of it if you do it like I'm telling you and do it the right way. And of course, make sure that the loading carriage is all the way in the up position. So before you reinstall the carriage, you got to make sure this is all the way in the loading position, and it's not in the down position. So you have to turn this little wheel. And of course, if the loading ring is stuck all the way over from a loading error, the way you get that thing to come back is you got to spin this little wheel. See this little wheel? This little wheel, see how it's trying to load? Go back with the little wheel and get it all the way back into the loading position too before you try to install the carriage. See how I'm bringing it all the way back? So now it's in the proper position for the loading carriage to load the tape, and the loading carriage is in the proper position when you spin this wheel to actually load the tape so you have no errors. So if you do all the lubrication, like I'm telling you, on the upper part, cleaning, you won't have any loading errors or any loading codes coming up on the front of the panel. Okay, another thing I want to point out is all the system cards that this thing has. This thing has several system cards. You got your audio, your video, and your systems card, and various different things. As you can see, they actually unplug from the unit. You got little plugs on the very bottom, and you got these little white tabs. All they do is actually slide, okay, in these little holes and they lock down. So what you want to do is you want to unplug it just like so. Take the card completely out, just like this, and you want to load the actual card in place and take it out so you can check it. Okay, most of the time these system cards go bad. You want to make sure that you have the replacement unit, another unit you can use for parts so you can actually pop out the cards. And yes, these system cards do go bad, so you need to know what you're doing to make sure they're working properly. And if the machine is still doing things after you fix all the loading situations like I just showed you, you probably have a card problem. So you want to make sure you know something about electronics and know something about system cards, because you need to actually know how to load, to determine what the electronic problem is so you can put the proper card in the proper slot, which would generally fix your problem. But you do need a machine for parts. These video cards and system cards are very expensive, and you do need another machine to use for parts, that just in case you do have a card problem, you can actually take the cards out and fix the best machine out of the two. Okay, as you can see, I just flipped over the unit upside down so I can show you the bottom of this unit. Now, you can see it's got some other playback and mechanism cards on the bottom, which are located right here. Okay, this is your actual systems card mounting bottom for the bottom plate where they actually plug in. What many people don't know is this actual board has fuses in it. As you can see, somebody soldered a fuse here because the fuse shorted out. And they did it, you know, kind of a crappy job, but they actually replaced the fuse. There's 3 fuses on this back bottom card that the cards plug into. When you plug the ones in the back, the systems card, the video card, time-based card, and all that, in the very back of the unit, it plugs into this card. And usually if the machine doesn't turn on, or whatever the situation might be, or you know, something doesn't light up, or whatever the issue is, you want to check these 3 fuses first. You got 3 of them. Make sure you check those and you replace them. You could do it with a multimeter and check for tone. If you get tone on the actual fuse, that means the fuse is good. If you don't get tone, that means the fuse is bad. You do need to be able to find these mini fuses, and you have to go online like Sony and various places to find them. They're pretty hard to get, but Sony, I believe, still stocks them. These are very little fuses that solder in place, and you got 3 of them right here. Make sure to check them with a multimeter and check for tone. If you have a bad fuse, it generally might be the reason why the machine isn't turning on, or maybe one of the panels isn't working, or it's starting to act kind of funky because it connects to the main boards, the main cards to this unit, you know, on top. So you got to make sure these fuses are good. All right, and I was talking to you about the mechanism on top that you had. Make sure you re-grease, reload, and make sure everything's moving freely like I was showing you with the mechanism. You got to make sure you do it. But you also, when you're taking that mechanism apart, you got to take these motors out. And here are the motors. Like I said, they slide from one point to another depending on the tape size. If it's a small tape, it'll be in this position. If it's a large tape, it's going to be in the very large end position. All right. But when you take the upper part of the mechanism apart and the motors come out with it, these are what you call ribbon. See these? These are ribbon connectors. Okay. These actually just pull straight out. All right, if you look, just like that, see? You lift up, and the ribbons pull straight out, just like that. All right, there you go. And then you'll actually be able to just remove these motors and with the other parts on top and service it properly, and you can put the motors, because you have to, it's all like in one piece, so you got to actually put the motors and the slide mechanism together. All right, and then when you get all that done properly, you have to flip the machine over and reconnect these motor. They're like ribbons that have to be reconnected on the very bottom of this circuit board. Alright, so you got to make sure you do that. But that will take care of your loading issues, your error codes, the whole bit that comes on the front of the machine if you're having loading issues, which is 9 out of 10 times the problem with these machines. But if you know how to fix them, like I do, and once you get them fixed, you can put them up on eBay. Instead of selling them for 25 or 50 bucks, you could sell them for $200, $300, $400 as a serviced machine, and people will buy them. Betacam machines are in high demand. People need them. People are doing a lot of tape conversions, a lot of archive conversions, and this is a great machine to do that with. But you know, if you're not a service technician like I am, buying these machines off eBay or any other place, you're going to have a lot of issues because they do need to be serviced. I hope you enjoyed this video.